Well, good news this morning. If you were sleeping or you slept early last night, you might not know, as a football fan, as a sport fan in general, that 50% capacity is now allowed at the stadiums as of today. So that means actually, officially, by law, we are allowed to go to stadiums today and fill to half capacity. I'm joined now by Stadium Management SA's Bertie Grobbelaar. He's the CEO there. Bertie, good morning. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm expecting this afternoon, in fact by midday, to see tickets going up on sale for PSL matches.
Morning, Benji. Always good to speak to you. Yeah, there's a bit more to this. One has to remember that it's not the venues only to make that decision. There's PSL clubs involved, and there's the PSL as governing body, and then you've got the SAFA as the national body involved in this decision making as well. You will recall that when 2,000 spectators were allowed to attend events, the PSL decided not to allow spectators due to various reasons, and we've gone through that in previous discussions. But as a venue, we're one of the stakeholders, and we are awaiting the guidance from the clubs, specifically the clubs that uses our venues as host venues, and then directives from the PSL via the clubs.
All right, Bertie, I know you've been part of the bargaining with the government for a long time now, in as far as events and in particular outdoor events are concerned. What has been the agreement with government? What was agreed upon?
Yeah, I see there's a bit of confusion out in the market this morning. One has to remember that the announcement last night bears reference to an amendment to the regulations under the Disaster Management Act. You will recall that the President said from the State of Nation address and in subsequent addresses to the media that government is looking to uplift the national state of disaster. Parallel to this is the amendments gazetted by the Minister of Health, or the proposed amendments to the National Health Act, that will circumvent some of these issues related to pandemics for future reference. So there's a 30-day commentary period allowed for in terms of that gazetted regulations. Now, that was gazetted on the 15th of March, so stakeholders got the opportunity to respond and comment to that up until the 15th of April. So we involved as part of a broader spectrum of stakeholders, where we presenting our recommendations to government to the amendments to the National Health Act. Now, currently, in that proposed amendments, it's pretty much the same allowances that the President announced last night, with the exception of there's no mention of a negative COVID test to allow attendance in the Health Act, as I read it at the moment.
Sorry to come in there.
So, yeah, there's still a process.
Sorry to come in there. The President did specifically mention, we played his soundbite this morning. He said, and I'm not quoting verbatim here, he said, if we are all vaccinated, or if we're vaccinated and can present the most recent COVID test that is negative, we can go to stadiums. That is one of the sound bites that we've been running from the President this morning.
In terms of the amendment to the National Disaster Act, those regulations you're spot on. You allowed from today, event organizers is allowed 50% of the venue capacity. But that is going to be replaced by the amendments to the National Health Act when that is promulgated. So it is important for us as stakeholders to further engage with government to ensure that the broader interest is served in terms of those amendments to the National Health Act.
But this means that at the moment, as it stands, we are allowed into the FNB Stadium. It's one of the venues that you manage, FNB Stadium, Orlando Stadium, Dobsonville Stadium, and I think the Rand Stadium are the stadiums that you manage. We are allowed to come into all of those venues and more at the moment.
If the event organizer agrees to that and the ESSPC, the Event Safety and Security Planning Committee, is satisfied with the planning of the event organizer and the venue authority and approves the event, yes, you are. But again, I'm saying, and hopefully we'll reach some sort of consensus, and we're guided by the governing bodies today on how that is going to, from a practical and logistical perspective, what is required. Because obviously we want to open up as soon as possible. That is our income and revenue that we've been begging for 24 months now. But we're still guided by, in the case of football, by the PSL and SAFA as the national governing body. If there's an event organizer, let's take, for example, the big concerts of this world, and they want to host an event, different set of rules. They need to, as event organizer, comply to the regulations. But still, there's requirements from the governing body that the clubs will need to comply with prior to hosting events.
And you spoke about logistics, Bertie. One of the concerns from a lot of people's points of view is, will we be able to sift through the crowds that come through, for lack of a better way to put it, in terms of the vaccination certificates and all of that? As Stadium Management SA, are you ready? Do you have a plan somewhere at the back of a drawer to say, this is a plug-and-play situation, we are ready to make sure that we vet the people that come through the turnstiles?
Yes, we are, Benji, and we've got different scenario planning that we've been busy with over the last 12 months. We need to determine what the specific requirements are. Again, you refer to the logistics. The second leg of that is costing. Somebody needs to fit the bill if there's an additional layer of security, additional layer of compliance checking. So that will all form part of the eventual event plan presented to the ESSPC for approval. Yes, we are ready. What is the logistical requirement? Currently, the regulations state production of a valid a negative COVID test, alternatively a valid vaccination certificate. What is that requirement? Is it a plug-in to the national database of the Department of Health? Is it a visual check? Is it scanning on your own internal database? We need to determine that, and hopefully today all of that will surface in discussions with stakeholders, and we'll receive a proper guidance on that.
Bertie, several times now in our chat you've mentioned the event organizers, and in this case it would be the PSL. Have you had any meetings with them, a chat with them for, as I said, a plug-and-play situation? You would have been privy to a few meetings with the Minister of Sport, Minister of Health, and all of that, with this situation in mind. And also, Kaizer Chiefs are the tenants there at the FNB Stadium. Have you had a chat with them? You also mentioned that you would have to sit down also with the clubs that are the tenants at your venues.
Yes, our link to the PSL is obviously via their member clubs, that's tenants at our venues. As you mentioned, Kaizer Chiefs makes use of the FNB Stadium, Orlando Pirates at Orlando Stadium, and Swallows at Dobsonville Stadium. So we on a weekly basis at least in contact with our clubs host clubs at our venues and doing scenario planning with them as well. So as far as the guidance they will receive from the PSL, we're ready with 3 to 4 scenarios that we can plug in and allow for spectators to attend the fixtures. Again, and I want to emphasize that we're obviously extremely happy about what happened, and that's a step in the right direction to allow full capacity. So all our planning is aimed at opening up the venues, but we need to do so with the approval of the relevant authorities.
Bertie, how much have you lost in revenue? Just remind us, since March 2020, with no fans, with no gate takings at all, how much has stadium management lost in revenue? Just give us an example of one of the venues that you manage.
Yeah, it's difficult to say, and let me put it to you this way. In terms of our management agreement with the City of Johannesburg, we manage these 4 venues at a full financial risk basis. So we're not getting any grant or payment from government or the local authority. But in turn, the flip side of that is we're entitled to commercialize, to host events, to sell branding and advertising, naming rights alike. With that tapped and closed, the obligation to maintain still remains. So I can tell you that on these 4 venues over the last 24 months, only in relation to maintenance and utility, payment of utilities, we spent in excess of 30 million rand over the last 24 months. That's not salaries and day-to-day management of the business.
All right, Bertie, we're going to have to leave it here for now. And as I said, I'm expecting tickets to go up on sale very soon. We'll be expecting the weekend's matches at the very latest to have fans. As far as I know, there's only one match in South African football that has 100% capacity. The rest, it's back to normal life, I guess. That's Bertie Grobbelaar of Stadium Management SA talking to us about the 50% capacity regulation that was announced by the president last night.